I had a dream, which was not all a dream. The bright sun was extinguished, and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space, rayless and pathless. And the icy earth swung blind and blackening in the motionless air. Morn came and went, and came and brought no day, and men forgot their passions in the dread of this, their desolation. And all hearts were chilled into a selfish prayer for light. And they did live by watchfires. And the thrones, the palaces of crowned kings, the huts, the habitations of all things which dwell were burnt for beacons. Cities were consumed, and men were gathered round their blazing homes to look once more into each other's face. Happy were those who dwelt within the eye of the volcanoes and their mountain torch. Fearful hope was all the world contained. Forests were set on fire, but hour by hour they fell and faded, and the crackling trunks extinguished with a crash. And all was black. The brows of men, by the despairing light, wore an unearthly aspect. As by fits the flashes fell upon them, some lay down and hid their eyes and wept. And some did rest their chins upon their clenched hands and smiled, and others hurled themselves, hurled to and fro and fed their funeral pyres with fuel, and looked up with mad disquietude on the dullened sky, the pall of a past world, and then again with curses cast them down upon the dust and gnashed their teeth and howled. The wild birds shrieked, and terrified did flutter upon the ground and flap their useless wings. The wildest brutes came tame and tremulous, and vipers crawled and twined themselves amongst the multitude, all hissing, but stingless, and they themselves were slain for food. And war, which for a moment was no more, did glut himself again. A meal was brought with blood, and each sate sullenly apart, gorging himself to gloom. No love was left. All earth was but one thought, and that was death. Immediate and inglorious, and the pang of famine fled, and the pang of famine fed upon all entrails. Men died, and their bones were tombless as their flesh. The meager by the meager were devoured. Even dogs assailed their masters, all save one, and he was faithful to a cause. And he kept the birds and beasts and famished men at bay, till hunger clung them, or the dropping dead lured their lank jaws. Himself sought out no food, but with a piteous, perpetual moan and a quick, desolate cry, licking the hand which answered not with a caress. He died. The crowd was famished by degrees, but 2 of an enormous city did survive, and they were enemies. They met beside the dying embers of an altar place where they had been heaped, a mass of holy things for unholy usage. They raked up and shivering scrapped with their cold skeleton hands the feeble ash, and their feeble breath blew for a little life and made a flame. Which was but a mockery. They then lifted up their eyes as it grew lighter and beheld each other's aspects, saw and shrieked and died. Even of their mutual hideousness, they died. And knowing who he was, upon whose brow famine had written fiend. The world was void. Populous and the powerful was a lump, seasonless, herbless, treeless, manless, lifeless, a lump of death, a chaos of hard clay. The rivers, lakes, and oceans all stood still. Nothing stirred within their silent depths. Ships, sailorless, lay rotting upon the seas, and their masts fell down piecemeal as they dropped. They slept on the abyss without a surge. The waves were dead. The tides were in their grave. The moon, their mistress, had expired before. The winds were withered in the stagnant air, and the clouds perished. Darkness had no need of aid of them. She was the universe. Oh. If I could explain at length the real causes which have contributed to increase this perhaps natural temperament of mine, this melancholy which hath made me a byword, nobody would wonder, is right!
Love you, Byron.
Love you too.
I said that.
This is impossible. This is impossible without doing much mischief. I do not know what other men's lives have been, but I cannot conceive anything more strange than some of the earlier parts of mine. I have written my memoirs, but omitted all the really consequential and important parts. From deference to the dead, the living, and those who must be dead.
Ow!
Apart from poetry, shagging, and other things, I wrote a bunch of plays. Here's one, a section of one called Manfred. From my youth upwards, my spirit walked not with the souls of men, nor looked upon the earth with human eyes. The thirst of their ambition was not mine. The aim of their existence was not mine. My joys, my griefs, my passions, and my powers made me a stranger. Though I wore the form, I had no sympathy with breathing flesh. nor midst the creatures of clay that girded me was there but one. Oh, but of her anon. I said with men, and with the thoughts of men I held but slight communion. But instead my joy was in the wilderness. Oh, to breathe the difficult air of the iced mountain tops, where the birds dare not build, nor insects wing flit o'er the herbless granite, or to plunge into the torment and to roll along on the swift whirl of the new breaking wave of the river stream, or ocean in their flow. In these my early strength exalted, or to follow through the night the moving moon, the stars and their development, or catch the dazzling lightnings till mine eyes did grow dim, or to look, listening, on the scattered leaves while autumn winds were at their evening song. These were my pastimes, and to be alone. For if the beings of whom I was one, hating to be so, crossed me in my path, I felt myself degraded back to them. All was clay again, and then I dived. Oh, Lord, I dived in my lone wanderings through the caves of death, searching its cause upon its effect, and drew from withered bones and skulls and heaped up dust conclusions most forbidden. Then I passed the nights of years in sciences untaught, save in old time with time and toil, and terrible ordeal, and such penance as in itself hath power upon the air, and spirits do compass air and earth, space and people infinite. I made mine eyes familiar with eternity. Such as before me did the Magi, and he who from out their fountain dwellings raised Eros and Anteneros at Gadara, as I do thee. And with my knowledge grew the thirst of knowledge, and my power and joy of this most bright intelligence, until, oh! But thus prolonged my words, boasting these idle attributes, because as I approach the core of my heart's grief, but to my task, I have not named to thee father or mother, mistress, friend, or being with whom I wore the chain of human ties. If I had such, they seemed no such to me. Yet there was one. She was like me in lineaments. Her eyes, her hair, her features all, to the very tone even of her voice, they said were like to mine, but softened all and tempered unto beauty. She had the same lone thoughts and wanderings, the quest of hidden knowledge, the mind to comprehend the universe. No, not these alone, but with them gentler powers than mine. Pity, and smiles and tears. But that I had for her, humility, and that I never had. Her faults were mine, her virtues were her own. I loved her and destroyed her, not with my hand, but heart which broke. Her heart, it gazed on mine and withered. I have shed blood, but not hers. And yet her blood was shed. I saw, and could not stanch it.